A man who runs airboats out along the Tamiami Trail went out before first light to check a levee he had run 1,000 times. And about 40 yards off the water, he found a Burmese python laid out in the sawgrass. 7 feet of it, stone dead. And there was not a bullet in it. The head was opened up high, right behind the skull. The body had been hauled away from the water, up onto dry ground, and something had raked sawgrass and mud over the middle of it in a rough mound. Covered, like it was being saved for later. He had run these glades his whole life. Nothing he knew of does that to a snake. So what does? That is a real thing people down here have started describing. Pythons found dead back in the grass, dragged off, covered over, opened up, and fed on days later. Nests dug open and emptied, and when they call it in, they get some version of the same answer every time. There is nothing out here that hunts these snakes. The record says one thing, the swamp is saying something else. If you had asked anyone in South Florida 10 years ago what eats a Burmese python, they would not have needed a second to think about it. Nothing. Not a gator, not a bear, not a cat, nothing. And they would have been right. They just had no idea the list had quietly gotten longer. Start with the pythons, because the pythons are the reason none of this should be happening. The Burmese python is not supposed to be in Florida at all. It is a Southeast Asian animal, one of the largest constrictors on Earth. And it arrived here through the pet trade. Small in a tank, manageable, cheap. Then it grows and grows and does not stop. And the owner runs out of room and out of nerve. Some of them let the snake go. Others got loose on their own when a hurricane tore through the breeding facilities and opened the doors. What they found here was close to paradise. Warm water, thick cover, endless prey, and a subtropical wetland that looks a great deal like home. Adults caught in Florida run around 6 to 9 feet. The largest ever measured in the state stretched to roughly 18. A single female can lay 50 eggs in one clutch, sometimes closer to 100. Nobody knows the real number out there now. The estimates run into the tens of thousands and higher. And the honest answer is that these animals are so well camouflaged that no one can count them. Then there is the study that puts numbers on the damage. In 2012, researchers working with the United States Geological Survey compared wildlife sightings in Everglades National Park from before the pythons took hold to sightings after. Raccoon observations had dropped by around 99%, opossums around 99%, bobcats around 87%. Marsh rabbits, cottontails, and foxes could not be found in the surveys at all anymore. An entire community of native mammals went into the bellies of these snakes, and nothing pushed back. That is the part everyone knew, and nobody thought to question. The snakes ate and bred and spread, and the ecosystem simply absorbed it. So when people started finding pythons killed and buried, the first question was not what, it was how. Quick thing before we get into what the cameras actually caught out there. If you run these glades, or you grew up anywhere near them, you already know the sound the sawgrass makes after dark, and you know exactly when that sound changes. Drop your county in the comments and tell me if you have ever come across something back there you could not explain. I read every one of these, and the map they draw is a big part of where this is going. And understand, these are not soft targets. A python is a rope of muscle built for one purpose, which is to seize an animal and hold it until it stops breathing. In Florida, they have been documented swallowing deer. They have been documented taking on alligators. Whatever was leaving them dead in the grass was picking a fight with something that fights back and usually wins. So here's what started showing up. The kills turned up inland, well off the open water. The pattern was almost always the same. Damage high on the body, behind the head, driven deep and close together. The carcass moved a real distance from where it died. And then the covering. Sawgrass, mud, broken stems pulled over the top in a rough mound. Come back a few days later, and the mound would be disturbed again. Opened up, fed on, then covered back over. I mean, think about that for a second. Something out here is killing these snakes and then keeping them, stockpiling them for later. And it was not one preserve. It was not one story. Different water, different county, same signature. When enough people compare notes at the boat ramp, a scattered handful of weird stories starts to look like a pattern. Here is the detail most people walked right past. Whatever is doing this is not eating on the spot and moving on. It is claiming the kill, coming back to it, treating a python like a meal, it fully expects to still be there in the morning. The obvious suspects fall apart fast. Alligators were the first guess because this is Florida and a gator will absolutely take a python. But a gator kills at the water and swallows what it takes. It does not haul the carcass 40 yards up onto dry ground and bury it in the grass. Wrong place, wrong method. Hunters were next, and that goes nowhere. No bullet, no cut, and nobody on earth walks away from a snake worth money lying in the open. Disease got ruled out too, because a snake that dies sick turns up whole, in one piece, right where it died. Not opened at the head with the whole body moved, which leaves the part that still does not add up. Every piece of what people were describing pointed at one specific kind of animal, the dragging, the covering, the coming back to feed. That behavior has a name, and it had been sitting in plain view the whole time. There is really only one class of animal on this continent that kills something, drags it into cover, buries it under debris, and returns to feed on it for days. Cats. It is called catching. A cat takes prey, pulls it into cover, rakes leaves and dirt over it, and guards the larder for days at a time. And in the summer of 2021, in the Big Cypress National Preserve, scientists from the United States Geological Survey had trail cameras watching a python nest. A female reported at around 14 feet had laid her clutch and was guarding it, the way female pythons do. Then the cameras caught something nobody had ever documented, a bobcat. Over a stretch of days from June into August, that cat found the nest while the female was away from it. And it went to work. It ate the eggs, it dug at them, it bit into them, and it cached them, hiding them away to come back to later. That was the first documentation of any animal in Florida preying on python eggs. The first time science ever recorded a native animal striking at these snakes at the source. Then the female came back. She found her nest raided and settled in to defend it. And the bobcat came back too, and at one point swiped at her. A native cat at a nest, taking a swing at a 14-foot snake. The eggs are where this starts. They are not where it ends. Up to this point, the story more or less holds together. Find the cat, close the case. That is about to flip, because of two very inconvenient facts. Here is the first one. For 20 years, the absence of a predator was not a guess out here. It was the finding. The python arrived on this continent without a single natural enemy. And that absence is what every model of this invasion was built on. It is the reason the population exploded. It is the reason the raccoons vanished. It is the reason nobody could stop it. The record does not say a native predator would struggle against these snakes. The record says there is not one. And here is the second fact. A bobcat is roughly twice the size of a house cat. On paper, the bobcat is not the predator in this story. It is the prey. Biologists performing necropsies on captured pythons have found bobcat claws inside the snake's stomach. Bobcat observations in python country fell by around 87%. And those animals did not move away. They were eaten. That is the relationship as science had it written down. Snake eats cat. So here is where I am going to pause for 1 second, right at the part that made me go, look at my own waterline. Before I show you what the cameras caught 4 years later, that makes all of this so much worse. Do me a favor and subscribe. I am tracking these cases preserve by preserve and mapping where the carcasses keep turning up. And I want you here when I show you which invasive species I think this happens to next. Now, back to the swamp. Because in 2025, it stopped being about eggs. A bobcat killed an adult Burmese python reported at around 13 feet. Not a hatchling, not a nest. A full-grown snake, twice the length of the one on that levee, and it was documented for the first time on record. Ian Bartoshek, a wildlife biologist with the Conservancy of Southwest Florida, who has spent years on the front lines of this fight, described what is happening as the ecosystem rebalancing itself, fighting back. In his words, native predators are recognizing Burmese pythons as a new food source and are learning to take advantage of the snake's vulnerabilities. Recognizing them as a new food source. Read that again, because that is the whole thing. Something has changed in the behavior of Florida's native animals. For 20 years, they had no answer. Now, some of them are looking at the invader and seeing dinner. Now, if you have spent any time around here, you have heard the other version of this story your whole life. Gator versus python. Somebody's cousin swears he saw it out on the levee at dusk. And usually that story runs the wrong way, with the python swallowing the gator. But in late 2023, in the Shark Valley area of Everglades National Park, a woman riding her bike caught video of an alligator eating and hauling off a large Burmese python. The snake clamped in the jaws, the gator carrying it away. As she put it, score 1 for the home team. Then there is the one that still does not sit right with anyone. Researchers had put a tracking transmitter inside a young female python to follow her movements. One day, the signal led them to a native cottonmouth, a venomous water snake, far smaller than the animal it had gone after. They took it to Zoo Miami for an X-ray. Inside the cottonmouth were the spine and the transmitter of the python it had swallowed whole. Everyone was sure that was impossible, right up until the image came back. And the list keeps growing. A Florida black bear documented attacking an adult female python, birds of prey working the hatchlings and the young. Here is how an animal ends up doing this in the first place, and it is not as far-fetched as it sounds. Predators learn. Evolution never handed a bobcat an instinct about a giant Asian constrictor, because no bobcat had ever met one. But intelligent animals adjust based on what works, and ecologists have a name for it: prey switching. A predator adds a new item to the menu when the opportunity is good enough, and a python nest is a very good opportunity. 50 to 100 eggs sitting in one place, and a female wrapped around them who cannot simply slip away. For most of the year, a big python is nearly impossible to attack. Cryptic, powerful, dangerous. But a nesting female is fixed to one spot, and her eggs cannot run or fight at all. In that window, the python's greatest strength, which is producing dozens of offspring at once, turns into a fixed and valuable target. Something out there found the gap in the armor of an animal that had no weaknesses. But this stopped being about one clever cat a long time ago. Look at what is actually on the list now: a cat, a gator, a cottonmouth, a bear, an eagle. 5 animals that cannot talk to each other, cannot teach each other, do not share a hunting strategy, a habitat preference, or a body plan. A bobcat stalks and caches. A gator ambushes at the water. A cottonmouth swallows whole. An eagle takes from above. There is no common method here, and no way for one of them to pass anything to another. And all 5 arrive at the same answer inside 4 years. One animal figuring it out is luck. 2 is a coincidence. 5 separate lineages, working 5 completely different problems, all landing on the same conclusion in the same decade, is something nobody has a mechanism for. That is not an animal getting lucky. That is a system starting to answer. And nobody can tell you how it is being coordinated, because as far as anyone knows, it is not. And the honest version is narrower, so let me say it plainly. There is no evidence yet that this is happening at a scale that touches the population. The pythons are still winning. Tens of thousands of them still spreading. One gator eating one snake does not bring back 99% of the raccoons. The word in the research is rebalancing, not eradication, fighting back, not winning. But it is happening in 5 directions at once, and that part has no explanation at all. So I'm going to put it straight to you because I want to know where you land. 2 options. 1, 5 unusually bold animals, coincidence stacked on coincidence, and it goes nowhere. 2, something is moving through the Everglades that we do not have a name for yet, and 5 species picking it up in 4 years is what the early stage of it looks like. Tell me which one sits worse with you down in the comments. I read them, and I promise you are not the only one leaning toward option 2. There is one more thing worth sitting with, and it is the quietest part of all of this. Nobody official will say it out loud, and you can understand why. If an agency stands up and says 5 native species have independently started hunting the invader, they own everything that comes after. Every question about what changed, every question about why now. The funding conversations, the contracts, the 20 years of published work built on the sentence that these snakes have no natural enemies. And a handful of trail camera clips and 1 X-ray is not proof that would hold up in front of anyone. So, they wait. They say only what they can defend. There is no population level effect. Meanwhile, the human effort keeps grinding on, and it is enormous. Pythons can be removed year-round on many state lands without a permit. Bartoszek's team alone reported culling roughly 12,000 pounds of snakes since late 2024. Researchers implant transmitters in male pythons and turn them loose as scout snakes, letting the males lead them straight to the breeding females during the season. And every year the state runs a removal competition that pulls hundreds of ordinary people out into the water. 2 fights happening at the same time, ours, which we can count, and the other one, which nobody controls and nobody can explain. So go back to that man standing on the levee before sunrise, over 7 feet of python that something dragged onto dry ground and buried. The real question was never whether a single bobcat once killed a single snake. The record already admits that much happened. The real question is how 5 animals that have nothing in common all reach the same conclusion at the same time. How long it has actually been going on before anyone had a camera pointed at it. And how much further it has already spread while everyone waits for a number big enough to publish. Nobody has answered that. Not the agencies, not the biologists, not the people who keep finding the carcasses and keep getting told it must have been a gator. If you want to know which invasive species I think this happens to next and why, that one is already up on the channel. Subscribe, and I will show you exactly where to look.